Good morning. It's tea time with Caylee and Lara.
Good
Cheers. Doing awesome matcha this morning. What did you put in here?
I took the spices of chai tea and blended them together. So cardamom, cinnamon, nutmeg, what else? Ginger, and then blended it up.
So yummy.
So yummy.
So good. Great way to start the day.
Okay.
So today we are talking about being optimistic, especially during this season of life. It's extra important.
Yes.
And one of the things I always appreciate about you, Lara, is you have this ability to take a situation, no matter what it is, and flip it around to be positive, or like see the positive in it, or how do you take something positive away from it? So when during our season coaching together, that was one of the things I always loved about Lara, was she just always flipped it around on me and was like, okay, what can you take from this? And so that was really powerful. So we're going to share some of those ideas today. So a couple from Lara, a couple from me. So where would you start with that?
Yeah, great. So I think the place I would start with it is where human nature it naturally is to look for what's wrong and what's missing. And this has helped us evolve. This has helped us grow and survive over time.
This is because we used to be like hunters, right?
Hunters and gatherers. What's wrong? What's missing? What's wrong? What's missing? And then from there you can build. And now that we've evolved, the practice is what's right and what's good. What's right and what's here. What's right and what's here. So instead of what's wrong and what's missing, it's what's good and what's here. And if you can look at any situation and notice yourself right away going, oh, what's wrong with this situation? And look from there and what's missing from it versus, okay, how can I see this situation and go, what is already here and what is good that I can cultivate from it? Just that simple act of rewiring your brain to a new pattern will help you over time become, in quotes, optimistic.
So it's just a practice, really. So anybody can learn it.
Anybody can learn it.
And some of us might be more wired to look for those fear or, the what's missing. But we can rewire that and start to think about, what is positive. One of the things I find really helpful is just perspective. And gaining, and it's kind of the same thing, right? Of like asking from a different perspective. I remember having this business problem, and I was going to all of my friends and family, and they were agreeing with me that it was this big problem and nobody had the solution to. And then I took it to my entrepreneur group, and someone was like, why don't you do this? Or why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? And then I was like, this really isn't a problem, is it? And so just by gaining.
So one thought it was a problem and one thought it wasn't.
Yeah.
So what's true?
Just by gaining a new perspective, the problem just went away. It became so much smaller. It just really disappeared. So I think that's kind of what you're talking about too, right? Is when you're just looking at it through a new lens, it can easily become less of a problem. And you had another tip that was awesome too.
Yeah, the other tip is what I call radical integrity. And
I love that.
And we all have, most of us have integrity. And then the next level for your integrity is radical integrity. And how I define it is like being 100% responsible for the situation. So when it goes right or wrong, how can I own my being a causeness of the situation? So what can I do better? How can I change it? What can I fix from it? Versus the tendency that so many of us have to be a victim, to blame, to point fingers, to think even it's the outside circumstances. Even if it is the outside circumstances, how can I still own the situation 100% to make change and be a cause?
Oh, I love that, because I know I've heard a lot of people blaming the environment that we're in right now. And the truth of the matter is, as both of us being business coaches, we're seeing that this situation's really exposed kind of what was already there.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And so I have a lot of clients that are just thriving through this season because of the right things that they did before to set themselves up to thrive in any circumstance. And you were talking about new clients that are just diving in this season. So let's talk about that.
It's amazing. I mean, of all the clients that I coach, there was one who their business has had a challenging time. But in this season, there has been at least 5 people that I've started working with that are starting new businesses, that are seeing opportunities, that are finally going, okay, I'm ready to listen to the calling of what I've been called to do this work, and I'm ready to step forward. So they have that perspective of seeing what is good and what is here, and how can I own the situation and make the best of it.
And even pivot, adapt, whatever they need to do, because we're not changing the circumstance. So we can only change ourselves and what we're doing within it.
And you have a great perspective around that too, talking about the differentiating the two.
Yeah, for me, it's like, what can I influence? And so there is always that piece that you can't control, right? There's always a piece of it that you can't control. And so we need to be able to separate what I can control and and I don't like to say control, I want to say influence, because it's like, if I can focus on the outcome that I want, and I can put all of this energy towards influencing that outcome, something great's going to happen from it, right? Instead of dwelling on this part that I can't control, I can't do anything about, and getting a lot of negative energy, a lot of fear, switching over to optimism, which is what we're talking about, and being like, okay, this is the outcome I'm going for, and these are all the pieces I can influence right now. I can't control the outcome of that, right? I can't even control if I get to that outcome that I wanted, but at least I can take charge for those pieces that are influenceable. So when you're thinking about being more optimist, it's like, okay, what's your end goal, and what are all the pieces that are within your control to influence?
Really great. Really great.
So if we were to leave everybody with one thought right now, how would you kind of sum that up?
Well, I think, there's sort of steps. If you put the steps together, is if you can train yourself to look for what's good and what's here, if you can really take a look at what perspective you're coming from, and is there another perspective, if you can go to the place of radical responsibility, and then the piece of, with that radical responsibility, how do I divide what I can influence and what I can't influence? I feel like you have a little bit of a secret sauce.
Yeah, that's great. And just, it all just kind of works together, right? Because what was number 2 again? We said
perspective.
So let's say them again.
So the first one was, what is good and what is here.
Okay.
The second one is, what perspective am I having?
Perspective. That's what I want to say. Perspective. Maybe you need somebody else to give you a perspective, right? Because if you're already in your own head with the way it is, and you're only going to people who affirm that idea, then get different kinds of people in your life giving you a new perspective.
And you've always been great with investing in coaching groups, in business coaches, in different trainings and stuff like that. So if you don't have the perspective, to get it from elsewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. And then we went to the integrity piece, which I love. That's extreme ownership. It means whatever situation you find yourself in, there's a part of some of your actions that got you there. And so instead of trying to change somebody else, trying to make a situation different, looking at how can I be responsible for myself? And that goes along with the influence too. How can I influence the situation to be a better outcome? So I hope you enjoyed our little tea time today. Be optimistic, even in this time. There's always a silver lining, and there's always opportunities. If we look back in history, there's always opportunities that come out of adversity. So you might have to look and dig deep to find them, but we promise you they're there. So have a great day.
Take care.
See you next time.